All right. I'm gonna hit record here and we'll let everybody in. We should be live on YouTube. LV, you want to check that real quick and we'll hit record here and get going on this.
Okay.
Just All right. Oh, I hear it. Hang on.
I'm gonna hit record here and we'll let everybody in.
Whoa,
We should
hang
be
on one
live on.
second. Hang on one second. I think I gotta
Oh,
do.
yes, we are.
All right. That was it in the background. Hey, can you double check and see that, make sure I didn't hang up on it? I think it's still recording in YouTube. Just double check it. I'm gonna hit record and we're gonna let everybody in. All right, we record to the cloud. All right. Awesome. Happy Tuesday. I think it's Tuesday. Not really sure. And I've been traveling. I'm not even sure what time it is. 3 o'clock. Weird day, weird time, but hey, we got to fit it in where we can. Hey, Elvi, can you confirm that we're streaming live on YouTube?
Yes, yes, we are.
All right, super. All right, awesome. Well, we're gonna get right into it here, real quick. So, I got a couple deals I want to go through the deal evaluator. If you have any deals, you want to go through, raise your hand. Be prepared to share your screen, and we can walk through them. We can talk also about if there's anything that you have that you're working on that you need help with. We have some really cool announcements. That we're releasing to the community first. It's sort of a sneak preview. We're going to be doing this next week, likely. I'm still confirming the times. It's going to be exclusive just for the community. It's really one of the most impressive things that I've seen recently, and actually probably in over a long period of time. Especially in the creative deal space. So super excited to share that. Hopefully we'll make that announcement. Guys, make sure that you see the emails. I think it'll probably be coming from both the Creative Deal Maker and Nick the Note Guy domains. So LV, what we'll probably do is, since we moved over, we'll probably just double up and make sure these guys get it, because it's super important that they at least know what it is. And if they want to come and attend, great. Because we're making some really cool announcements that's exclusive to the community. So I think everybody's in. We're going to just get started right now because I got a lot to cover. First of all, before we keep going, does anybody have a deal they want to go through, or do they have any questions they want to have? If you guys want to raise your hand virtually, I can call you in as we go through the process. Let me know that as well. So Justin's got his hand raised. So let's do this. I'm going to go ahead and bring Justin on. Let's go ahead and bring Justin on, and let's just see what he's got. And then I'll go into my two deals as well, as we're letting everybody else on. All right, Justin, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I got you. Can you hear me?
I can. Let me see. Let's make sure we got screen share. All right. You should have screen share. Let me
So mine's just a question. I do have a
Okay.
deal we can go through afterwards. It's
Okay.
not time sensitive, but one that's time sensitive is got an offer on a property yesterday, typical fashion from a tenant buyer that is offering seller finances. Well, what do you want? And so I've kind of gauged their situation. They can pay cash for the property.
So are you the buyer or are you the seller?
So I own the property.
So you own the property. Do you own
So
a
I'm the
free
seller,
debt
and my
on it?
question is how to write the note so that I could best position to potentially sell that note.
Do
And
you own debt? Do you
so
have any debt on it right now, or do you own it free and
just a
clear?
just a private loan,
Okay. And so is that a short-term private loan or a longer-term debt?
short-term private loan, but I could cash it out if I need to.
Okay. So then
So
what we would do is we'd write um, yes. So we would, yeah. So what state is it in?
Utah.
Utah. Okay. Um,
So
yeah.
right
So
now I told them 50% down, 10% interest, 5-year balloon, 30-year amortization as a starting point, and to kind of see what they come back with.
what are they going to
But
do with the house? What are they going to do with it?
owner occupy.
Okay, so you can't do a balloon on an owner occupant, okay? I
Mm.
mean, there are some exceptions on how it's structured, but for all intents and purposes, you cannot, you can't do a balloon because a balloon means that let's just say you used a 5-year balloon. That means you make 60 payments and then payment 61 is the UPB, the remaining unpaid principal balance on that deal. Okay? Cannot do that to a consumer. Now you could do an ARM, which is an adjustable rate, which says the rate will be X and it'll adjust, and you can have that escalate and adjust. The difference is it's still based on the same term, meaning the term does not change. Okay. So it could be a 15-year term, it could be a 10-year term, it could be a 30-year term. So, but even though the rate might change and the payment might change, if the borrower wanted to stay in the deal, they still have the term to fall back on. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
So,
clarifying question. Is that true that you can't do an arm or a balloon as this is, as I'm not a RMLO? Is that like no balloons, period, regardless?
I would highly discourage writing a
Okay.
balloon to a consumer. Okay.
Okay.
That's
Okay.
just me. Now, I'm not going to play the attorney, and I'm not sure how you're going to structure that in the state of Utah. I'm just saying I would always go back and I always would say, what would Bank of America do? Okay. At the
Okay.
end of the day, what would Bank of America do? Would a Bank of America put a balloon on a consumer product? Absolutely not. Okay.
Gotcha.
Would they do a 5-year term? No, they would make could they do an arm? Yeah. So this is what I would say. So here's the thing, okay? What are you ultimately trying to accomplish with this? Is this a way to get your full asking price in over a period of time because you can't sell it to a retail buyer and you want your price? What is your number one objective with structuring this to a owner finance buyer? What are you trying to get out of this?
Number one, just create cash flow. Number two would
So if
be,
that's okay, so let's stop there for a second. So
yeah,
if you want cash flow, then why do you want the gain to be over in 5 years?
because I've got returns on certain assets that are greater than 10%. But if 10% works and it's good, then I'll just keep
Okay,
riding it.
so here's the other thing you got to look at. So we're not talking about apples to apples here because a simple interest return, although you can compound it, is not the same as an amortized return, okay? Because you're gonna get all your money back. This is why banks are in the banking business, why they control real estate, they don't own it. And when you understand what amortization is and does, you may want to look at that and reconsider that. I'm not saying you should or shouldn't, but you're going to get all that money up front, and then you still have the UPB, the unpaid principal balance, and it's still in 5 years, it's probably still going to be 97% of what you wrote it today. Okay. So could you go turn around and leverage the debt? Could you hypothecate the note? Could you sell the note? Could you parcel the note? There's a lot of things that you can do if you structure the debt correctly from the beginning, and we can surely help when you get to that point. Okay. But you really need to solve and answer the question for yourself. Why am I doing this? What am I trying to accomplish? Because the note is a very liquid asset. Okay. It's very desirable if it's structured properly, and you can sell it or leverage it at any point in the future, and do whatever you want to do with it. So I would probably say I would rather probably partial it. Let me ask a question. What's your cost basis on this?
310.
Your cost basis is 310.
Mm-hmm.
What is the value? What are you selling it for?
350.
Okay. So your cost basis is 310, you're selling it for 350. Okay. Yeah, so there's some other things that we can look at that. Can you get 50% down on 310? I don't know. I mean, I don't 350, I don't know. I mean, maybe you can, maybe you can't. Can you get a 10% and 50%? I don't know. Okay. You can surely ask, and then you can just model it accordingly from there. I've seen weirder things, man. It just if you already got a potential buyer, then I would say if you like the buyer and you like what they do, since you control the asset, I mean, you can take zero down if you don't want to take money down, you don't have to take, there's no law that says you got to take a down payment.
Yeah.
Okay. Not saying you should or shouldn't. I'm just saying you can choose that. I'm much more worried about the asset as my collateral than I am about how much the buyer pays me down. So I want to know that if I'm going to lend somebody, even on paper, $300,000, I want to make sure that I'm not lending them $300,000 on a $250,000 house. Because then I have potential issues later down the road in the event that they don't perform. At least if I have to take them they go to default status and I got to take them to foreclosure or whatever, could I sell that house at foreclosure and get my principal balance back? Highly probable if it's, if the note is at 85 or 90% of value. So it's probably
Not quite,
pretty
but yeah.
close. Pretty close.
Yeah. Mhm.
Close enough, okay? But there again, you're also gonna get all that front loaded, all that interest on the front side. So my recommendation is just see what you can get them to say yes to. Let's go build it in the software and see what the software says, and then to make a determination on what you ultimately want to do. I mean, if it's my deal, I mean, can you go get a 10% return right now secured by an asset? This is the other problem that people don't take into consideration when they're looking at return on investment. Where can you get a 10 or 11% yield securitized by a hard asset? I mean, you're not getting it by buying Tesla stock, I can tell you that. He's
So
not giving
if I structure it 8 or 9 or 10%, is that note sellable, leverageable? I mean, that's really,
Yeah,
I
100%.
have a bunch of notes. I just have never sold one or been in a position where
Yeah, so that's a great.
I might want liquidity, right? And I don't know what liquidity looks like once I bind myself
And
to
if
that.
and look, the value, so there's factors that go into the valuation of the note, okay? And it's not necessarily in this order, okay? The first probably priority is what is the investment to value, not loan to value, investment to value. How much is somebody investing into that note versus the value of the property? Because that helps the note buyer, whether it be me or somebody else, determine risk, okay? And based on the level of risk helps to also dictate the return on that level of risk. Right now, we're seeing on a note that's properly underwritten with an RMLO that's properly documented, the collateral file is good, the servicing is done by a third party, taxes and insurance are escrowed, it's a deed and mortgage or deed of trust, not a contract for deed. These are all the things, and everything is done properly. Most note buyers right now are probably looking for a 10 to 12% yield, okay? The reason why is because they have alternative investments they can go put their money into, right? What does that mean? Well, I can get a CD at 6% right now. Now, granted, that's only for maybe 12 months, but that's how people look at it, right? So it just depends. As rates go back down and go the other direction, well, now, their money doesn't, their returns are less because now, stuff is at 3% or 4% or 5% instead of 6 or 7. So it's all relative, okay? I think if you model this out and here's the other side of it. There's about, I don't know, $5 trillion out there right now in IRA money that's collecting dust, okay? It's sitting in people's IRAs, self-directed IRAs, and they're making zilch on it. So could you go find a note buyer that has IRA money that wants to get a 6 or 7 or 8% return on their money they're making zero on? The answer is yes, okay? It's not your typical traditional note buyer, your professional note buyer, but yes. So could you, if somebody said, hey, can I go get a buyer for an 8% note yield? And you gave me 90 days, the answer, I would say at a very high probability, yes, okay? For me, it's more about velocity, getting in and getting out. So I'm going to default to worst case scenario. And if I can outperform it, then that's just beneficial to me. So if I know that I can make it work at a 10 or 12% yield, if I got to exit out of it and model it that way, if I'm able to beat that, then it's just more money potentially to me. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So if you go write an 8% mortgage right now and the yield is very, very subjective, okay? You could take that same asset and somebody goes, oh man, go to a family office or something and go, man, 10% sounds too good to be true. Where's the catch, right? And you might have some people that are just going, well, I don't get out of bed for less than 18%. Okay. So it's all sort of relative in that perspective. It gets back to the education, it gets back to the quality of the borrower or the underwriting file. Where's the property located? What's the quality of the property, the desirability of the property, all these, is it in a judicial or non-judicial state? All these are all factors in determining the true value of the note. People go, well, how much will you pay me for the note? I go, I don't know, because I don't know anything about it. It's like buying a used car, right? Hey, I got a 2015 Ford F-150 pickup truck. How much you give me for it? Well, I don't know. Is it in good condition? And do you have maintenance records on it? How many miles does it have on it? Was it in Texas or was it in Canada? These are all variables and factors that help determine and tell the story of what it's worth. I will tell you this, it doesn't matter what you write that note for from a interest rate, that you want to solve it for the true value of it is in the event that you sell. Okay. There's other ways that you can sell you don't have to sell the whole note. You can partial it. You can hypothecate and basically arbitrage the debt. There's a lot of things that you can do without having to be out of the game completely and actually get all your money back and then stay in the back end of it. You can go write two notes, go sell, $300,000 worth of payments, for example, and then stay in the back end and have an infinite ROI on the back end of the deal and make 3 times the money. So first thing first, let's find your buyer. Let's figure out what you can agree to. Let's put it in the model and then figure out from there, because what I would want and what's good for me could be different than for what you want, right? What are you going to do with the money? If you get it like in 5 years, what are you going to do with the money, right? Are you dealing with capital gains on this property? Is an installment sale a better thing? There's a lot of questions that need to be probably answered at some point from a tax advisor or a CPA or whomever relative to the structure of the deal. So, but hey, it sounds like you got a good property that you can do something with, and now you just got to solve for it. And I would highly recommend using the software and then doing some what if scenarios. Okay. And run it out. And you'll see when I go into this here in a second, it's like, what happens in 5 years? What happens in 8 years? What happens in 10 years? And you'll see, and you can go play with the principal balance and see, hey, if I stay in this another 5 years, I get all my interest up front and I get the whole back end of this for free plus whatever else results. So does that answer your question?
Yep. Thank you. That works for
All right.
now. Yep.
Awesome. All right. Keep me posted and let me know if there's anything else you need if you get ready to do underwriting. All right. All right. Super. All right, Justin. All right. Let's see here. Do we have any? Let's see if there's any. Give me 1 second. Let me put a pin. Guys, got any questions on that at all before we move on to some of the deal stuff? Anybody have any questions or the value of what we do? I'm telling you right now, isn't finding the owner finance buyer and getting arbitrage on, although that's very, very valuable. It's really the back end of these deals that we can't even predict and forecast because we don't know the outcome. But that's why controlling the asset is super, super important. So, all right, I am going to let me share my screen. Let me see if I can find my thing here. Give me a second. I'm gonna start. I think it's this. I think I can go from here. Let's see here. All right. Can you, Elvia, can you see my screen? You see the deal?
Yep.
You see deal
Yes.
evaluator?
Yep.
All right, super. All right, let me go back to the beginning on this one. Oh, crap. I just blew that. Hang on. I think I timed out. Let me go back. So this is an interesting deal, okay? And what the hell is my why is it not pulling this up? I see it right here. Give me 1 second. Let me check something here. I think I go to a different screen. There we go. All right, let me share my screen again. I had to go, for some reason I was on a different thing. So let me go to share. All right. Oh, can you see my screen again?
Yep, we can.
All right, super. All right. So this is a property that we just got over, for one of my clients, Jacksonville, Florida. And this is an interesting deal because on the surface, people will go, well, this sounds like it's going to be a good deal. And then the outcome may not be the case. So we're going to work it through first, and we're going to see some of the things that we can do. What's interesting on this deal, here's the property right here, 1204 West 31st Street. Okay. And this was a sub-2 deal. Okay. But what's interesting on this, here's the unpaid principal amount. They got it for $0. Okay. There was no agent involved. There was no assignment fee to a wholesaler. There's no closing costs because of the way they did it, structured it. The only thing I have in here is $5,000. And that is only because there's a $5,000 second lien that there's no reason to keep it there, just pay it off and be done with it. So that's the only cost. And they don't even incur that cost until they exit potentially on a wrap. So in reality, it's zero. Okay. So the question is, hey, if you could take over a property for $0, is it worth taking over? Somebody said, hey, here's a $150,000 house. You don't have to pay me any money. Take over the payments, and I don't want any money out of it. Is that a deal or not a deal? And on the surface, people would say, yeah, I'll take a free house and I can figure out how to make the payments on it. Well, we're going to go through that right now. So here is the deal itself. So the existing debt on it, it's only about a year old. Okay. 7.25%. Okay. The other thing on here is that not only do you have that, here's your payment of 1042, but there's also PMI. Not a lot of money, about $80. Okay. Just got to keep that in consideration if you're going to keep this as a wrap mortgage. Okay. So let's just go through this. Let's just go through this right here. Sale price, 160. So how did I come up with the sale price? Well, if I go to realtor.com, here's the actual property. Let's just go through this real quick. You can see older house, which I like personally because there's usually value in older properties. But this was a expensive debt, but this is the property that somebody remodeled this recently. So it's a mid-century property, and it's pretty decent. 3-bedroom, 2-bath. Estimated value here, 146-ish, give or take. Here's the property details. Okay. I'm just scrolling down here. Here's the value. Okay. Value's been pretty flat. So what is the value here about? Here in last June, it was about 147 to 158. So let's just go to middle, 155. Here, about the same, 146 to 160. So value is probably in the 150 to 160 range for seller financing. So that's that. What are the other things I want to say? Down here, oops, did not mean to do that. Let's go back down. Here, we also, we always say go to Zillow and do a ZHVI. We're going to compare these two things here. So I want to look at this piece right here. So this neighborhood, listing price median 145, sold price median 157, days on market 96. You also have this heat map right here, and you can see all this stuff. All this is information, guys. That's all that it is. Does it mean that you can't have a house for $200,000 and can sell it in a week? Absolutely doesn't mean any of that. Here's the area. You got a very small geographical area right here. I mean, because look at it, you have this major interstate right here that's cutting off some of the geographic side of it. Okay. So the other thing I want to look at, Florida environmental risk. Okay. This has a moderate flood rating of 4. Not horrible for Florida. I wouldn't want to go any higher than 4 because of the affordability. But here's what we do know. This was an FHA loan that's barely a year old. So not only did it have to get an inspection and an appraisal, it had to pass all these other tests. So we know something that's a year old is probably pretty good. So I'm gonna go and I want to just, before we get back into the model here, I want to go back and I want to go, let me move this bar out of the way. Everything pops up when it doesn't make. Let's just see what the ZHVI is on this. So here, the Zillow Value Home Index is 111,000. Well, that's pretty low relative to a $160,000 house. So if I take that let's just take 150, let me take 111 divided by 150. We're in the 75 percentile. That's probably, I would not want to go any higher. That'd be about it. But the reason why I'm okay with it, because we're at a sub $200,000 price point, I'm probably okay. Typically, I'd say take that 111 times 0.120, 20%. That puts me at 133. If I have a good deal, I mean, these are just suggestions, doesn't mean anything, okay? So that takes care of the valuation, okay? Zillow has it at one number. Go back down here. Go back to the median price. Was it 155, I think? I don't know where it went. Up here, we go. There's the sales there. It's land. Okay, good enough. All right, let's get back into the model, okay? So seller financing, I think 160 is probably the number at this price point. I think we can probably get that. Get a little less down payment, 12,000. Finance 148. For the sake of the modeling, I'm just going to do one note. Doesn't change the outcome. It's just easier for me to go back and manipulate data as we go along. So we're going to finance $148,000, 9.95%. The total P&I is 1293. I think rent value is about 15 to 1600. So we're going to get this at this rate. We should be able to get the cost of home ownership probably within $100 of the rent value. Okay. So let's just say it's another, I don't have the exact numbers on there. Let's just say it's 1650 is the total PITI, even at this rate. Rent value is probably 15 to 1600. Do you want to own it for 1650 or do you want to rent it for 1550? That's why this deal is potentially something to consider. But plus we have $0 into the deal. So let's continue on this, okay? Let's just see where this at. Come on. There we go. So I'm just going to self-fund the $5,000, okay? I just don't have any place to put it, so I just put it in here. And I just put it in at, this doesn't matter. I can probably change this down. Let's just change this down to 36 months. It's all our money, so it doesn't really matter. Let's do, what's that, 0? What is that? 5,000 divided by 250. What is that? 20 months? Let's see. I think that's probably pretty close. There it is, 20 months. All right, so 20 months, I get my $5,000 back if I'm paying it back on cash flow. But I'm going to get maybe a little money back at closing. Let's just see what that looks like. So when I get into the disposition exit strategy right here, here's what the cash offer would have been. If you're a wholesaler and you're going to make an offer for cash on this property based on MAO, less repairs, less fees, you would have to offer about $103,000. Well, we know they owe $150. The likelihood of a seller is going to write a check for $40-something thousand at closing, highly unlikely. Okay. Since we are putting $5,000 in it, we're going to have a negative cash flow on a monthly basis. Not horrible because it's only for a short period of time. But then we get down to this right here. Okay. And what it says right here is that our cash flow while gap funding is being paid back. We're paying back that $5,000. We're basically cash neutral. And then after that, the cash flow monthly is $249 a month. Now, you guys hear me talking about, I want to see a minimum of 100K payday. I want to see a minimum of this number be a minimum of $800. That's my personal choice. So these fall already below my minimum criteria. And the reason being is because to a large part, interest rate is super high on this deal. Okay. And it's a low price point property. So we have a couple things working against us. So let's just go to the profit analysis. And I'm going to solve it for 10 years. Okay. So over 10 years, I get hardly any cash now, call it zero. Cash flows 24,000. The net payoff in 10 years, another $5,000, not a lot. Why is that so small? Is because my variance between my underlying debt and what I'm selling it for is a very small arbitrage. Okay. Could I get 11%? Maybe. We want to model it conservatively. We don't want to be too aggressive on it. If I'm able to get 20% down and sell it for 170 and charge 12%, boom, great. We got a good deal. But we want to model it conservatively. So right now, this is a non-deal for me. There's three things that are working against it for me. Number one, it's an FHA with a high interest rate with PMI, number one. Number two, my total profitability on a 10-year projection is way below the $100,000 minimum payday requirement that I personally have for this kind of deal. And my monthly recurring revenue is $260. I want that to be in excess of $800. So, but I want to show you guys this is if one thing's different, because the one thing about first of all, this house is identical to every other house on the street as far as I'm concerned. What makes this house different than the one across the street or the one next door is the debt. Okay. And we know right now the debt on this property right here is expensive, 7.25%. Okay. But let's just say that this is the exact same deal, but we come up with something that's got a 2.75% rate. Okay. Is there properties out there that look just like this that have a 2.75% mortgage on it that have been paid down for 3 years? Absolutely. So let's just put that in here. Let's just put that in there. Let's say if it's 2.75, it's probably going to be at least 3 years old. So 36, let's just call it 320 months remaining. Okay, I'm going to solve for this now. So all I did right here is I kept everything the same. I'm not going to change the sale price. I'm not going to change anything else. And now we're basically going to control a cheaper debt. Okay, that's all that I'm changing. And let's just see what happens. I want you guys to visually see the financial impact of interest rate on these deals. Okay, and when you model them out, this is where the deals are because we're buying debt. I don't care two rips about the house. The house is irrelevant to me. What I do care about is the debt because that's what I'm going to structure. So all I did in this amount, I'm not changing anything except what if this had a cheaper debt on it? Okay. What if this was seller financing? This was the debt I could get. Okay. So let's just go through the rest of this model and see now if this would have become a deal as we move forward. So let me move this out of the way. I'm going to go to the next screen. Okay, sale price is not changing any of this. These numbers do not change. They don't change at all. Go to my gap funding. I'm still $5,000. Now the difference is my cost basis is a lot smaller. So when I solve for this, look at that. Now it goes up $375. So now if I want to figure out how many months I'm going to take to get back, it's simple math, 375 plus the 250. Is 625 divided by 5,000. 5,000 divided by 625. 8 months. In 8 months, I get all my money back. So I'm going to invest in this deal all day long. Okay. So now let's go to the next screen. This is why you got to use the models. And sometimes when you could have cheaper cost of entry, cash wise, higher rate, deal doesn't work. Or you can put a lot of money into the deal and buy down the rate or buy something with a cheaper rate and crush it. Okay. So here's this deal. Now we're up to 624. It was 250 before. Now let's go back and see what happens. Look at this now. Now, if this was the rate, we're looking at it. $816 meets the minimum requirement there on average, almost $100,000 there. I would probably do this deal if the debt was cheaper. So nothing else changed except the debt. That's it. And that makes the difference on these deals moving forward. So I would highly recommend that you do this exercise, because if it's got cheap debt, but sometimes cheap debt does not mean good deal. Okay. Sometimes we do deals, it's got cheap debt, but the value is so high relative to the market, what we could sell it for, it doesn't work. So I hope this helped you guys out from that perspective. I get a lot of people that are trying to go out and get deals at like 10%, 10% of the acquisition cost to bring into the deal. Okay. So they want to bring in, if it's a $200,000 house, they want to bring in 20,000 max. That's maybe something you can utilize to make the assumption, but I would always model every single time you get a mortgage statement and can put it in here, just solve it. It takes literally 3 minutes. Go through this exercise and then solve it, and then figure out what you need to do to make the deal work. Let me show you one other thing on this, and we're going to move on. Okay, no cash on this deal. Could I take this $5,000 and make this zero and say that the seller has to pay it off? Could I make the seller bring $5,000 to closing? And the answer is absolutely yes. If I take that little $5,000 away, what happens then? Well, there's no acquisition funding. Okay, so it doesn't matter what I put in here. Okay, because it's zero. Okay, cost basis is zero. And then when I go to my profit analysis, no, I can't do it that way. Never mind. I got to reset it. But my point is that there's nothing that says that you can't have the seller bring money to the closing. I could put in here negative $5,000. Okay, and go through this whole process again. Okay, there is no funding on this. It's gonna be zero. Go over here, profit analysis. Now my profit just went up to $102,000. I've had sellers, excuse me, bring $15,000, $20,000, $30,000. I mean, I think the highest I've had brought to recent memory is like $26,000. But it was a $350,000 house. Seller didn't care. He wanted his problem to be gone. He just wrote the check. Had another one bring about $8,000 not that long ago. So sellers will bring cash to closing if they're trying to solve a problem. Not everybody is motivated by money or needs to sell because of money. Sometimes it's a real estate problem. Okay, so what do we have here? Let me stop sharing for 1 second. Anybody got any questions on this so far? Does this make sense? Anybody have a deal they want to go through? Any questions are running into the community? And if not, I'm going to do one more opportunity. Maybe it's a fit for somebody that's looking for a property, but I want to stop here, answer any questions. My biggest recommendation is, whether you're using a spreadsheet or using Deal Evaluator, you have to model this stuff out and use whatever time in the future you want to calculate these deals. I use a 10-year model. Why do I use 10 years? Okay. One is I know how to underwrite these deals. The probability that something happens in 10 years based on what we do is extremely low. Is it possible we have a problem? Absolutely. Is it probable? Highly improbable. That's number one. Number two is that the average homeowner is staying in these houses, 12, 13 years now. Okay. That's what we're seeing. It used to be 8 to 9 years. Now with what real estate continue to go up, they're just staying in houses longer. They're staying in or remodeling. The lifespan of a house isn't nearly for a home buyer isn't nearly as short as it used to be. Okay. So if I know the average homeowner is in the house 12 to 13 years and I'm modeling at 10 years, the probability that they're in it for 10 years is high. Is it possible they could sell it tomorrow? Yes. But if I structure the deal right, guess what? I get to be the buyer if I choose to. It's my buyer. We're doing 3 of them right now. The buyers are getting ready to sell for whatever reasons, and we're looking at seeing if we want to buy them back because we have cheap debt on them. We don't want that to go away. And we need to figure out if we're gonna, what the equity position is and make an offer to them that's better than what they would get if they sold it traditionally. When rates start to come back down, which they will, okay, and say rates drop back down to 5, and a buyer that we sold the property at 9.5% at wants to refinance. Well, I might be willing to refinance that buyer at a lower rate, depending on what my underlying rate is. If I got a 2.5% rate and I charge them 9.5%, and now they want a 6.5%, just remodel it at 6.5%, and I can make a decision. Do I want them to pay me off, or do I want to arbitrage 4 points on $200,000 and reset the term again? We control all that, okay? And I've said this before. I don't remember how many we've done total. We've done almost 2,000 of these now. I've only had one borrower in all the deals that we've done ever. The only way that we don't control is if the borrower elects to pay off the debt with cash. It's the only way. So if they hit the lottery and they go, oh, I'm going to go pay Nick off. The only way that I am out of the game by choice is if they want to pay it off with cash. I can't tell them they can't pay it off. Because if they want to refinance, well, guess what? I can meet or beat any of Bank of America's rates if I choose to. It's up to me. It's my choice. If they want to sell the house, well, guess what? I can offer them more than what they're asking and avoid commissions and all that stuff. If I choose to, and then I turn around and resell it. The only way I can be out of the game is if they sell it. I mean, if they pay it off for cash. I've only had one property ever get paid off with cash, and it was about 8 years ago. And the property was sold about 10 years ago. It was a $100,000 house. Their payoff was like $70,000 when it was all said and done. Well, a lot easier to pay somebody $70,000 to pay off a property than it is $270,000. Properties have gone up. We just do not see buyers paying off mortgages with cash. Just doesn't happen. So that's it. All right, I'm going to go to this other one and then we'll wrap this up. Does anybody have any questions up to this point in time before I go to the last model? Anybody? Okay. Let me pull up this next one real quick and we'll go through this is one that's available for sale. You guys may be interested in it. We're going to run through the exercise on it real quick. Let me pull it up. Let me share my screen. I'm going to do the same exercise. Let's see here. Share my screen. Okay, here we go. So this house is down in Galveston, okay? And right now it's structured and set up as an Airbnb. The owner just tired of being a landlord, okay? It happens. It's a little too far away from him. It's producing revenue, but not enough revenue to really keep it. But so there's a couple different potential exits on this. You could keep it as an Airbnb, or you could turn around and owner finance it and do the same thing. So let's just go through this. Let's just go through this real quick here. Okay, here's the deal. 3928 Avenue S. Okay. Here's the property. We'll pull it up in a second. I got as is value and ARV about 330. Monthly rent is about 2,500. Okay. What's interesting on this one is that it's a hybrid deal. So the unpaid principal balance is 119. Okay. Got closing costs 5,000, cash to agent 7,000, $45,000 cash to seller. He's got a ton of equity in this. Okay. But his underlying rate is 3.167 with 300, about almost 3.5 years pay down. And then he'll sell or carry the balance for 120 at 5%. Okay. And when you solve for that, oops, hang on one second. Put this back. I want to mess my model up here. Give me 1 second. When you solve for this, the blended rate is going to be almost the same. It's going to be about 4%. Okay, so it's not a bad deal. So let's go to the next screen. If you sold it and got 10% down, okay, and you can get 9.5%, which I think's doable for this type of property. okay? Let's just do the math on it. You have to get third party financing because you have to come up with $57,000. Where is that money going to come from? You can borrow it. You can, use your own capital. At 15%, at 60 months, it's about $54 a month, which when we see the next screen, it's basically a cash neutral deal for 5 years. Okay. So let's go to the next screen. But here's where it gets good. Okay. Look at the difference on this deal. Would you rather have plus $32 a month cash flow for 60 months and $260 a month after? Or would you rather be negative $55 for the first 60 months and then plus 1,300? Okay. This is why these deals, you got to model these out. So as we go on to the next screen and we look at the profit analysis, I'm going to put 120 in here, 10-year payoff. Let's look at it. Now you got $9,900 cash now coming back. Well, if you take 9,900 and you divide that by 60 months, why 60 months? Is because if I go back to my acquisition funding, I need to borrow my private money for 60 months. And if I'm negative $54, well, that's just how much I got to pay each month. Doesn't mean I'm losing $54. I just got to pay $54 in. Well, guess what? I'm getting, if I take the $9,800 I get back when I wrap it, I have $165 worth of surplus based on 60 months. So in theory, I'm actually cash flowing $100 a month in this example. So let's go to the rest of this deal. You got cash flow over the next 10 years of $74,000, $120,000 in the net payoff. And then you have a total profit of $179,203 and a net monthly recurring revenue of $1,493. So if you just turn this into an owner occupied deal and you thought these numbers were accurate and you had $57,000 to leverage or borrow or put into the PML position, this is the deal. Like this is a deal for me. Okay. Numbers wise. Now let's look at some of the other things. I think it's really important. It's one thing to model it financially, but you got to do other verification. So let's go in. I'm going to pull this address. Let's go look at this on realtor.com. See what we got. So let's go back to realtor.com. Guys, you guys do need to do this every single time because I'm telling you, you'll learn something every time you do a property. Let's see if we can find this house. Okay, here's the house off market. I don't know how many pictures on here. Oh yeah, there's pictures on here. This looks like it was before it was redone. Yeah, this is old. So I'll show you the new pictures in a second. So they did a lot of this is great because you can see what it used to look like and what it looks like now. So now they got an estimated value of 309. Okay, 309, 320, 330, all about the same. Let's go down here. Let's go down and see what else we got. So every time you get a hurricane or something come through, it probably reduces the values. The unique thing about this property, it's elevated, it's never flooded, and it's not in a flood zone, even though it's Galveston. To me, that's a premium because a lot of people want to maybe live down there, but they don't know how to buy something that allows them to do it. So I think the 330 seller financing is probably a pretty good number. So let's go down and look at. This is why you got to know this stuff. So if I go down to, so you can see where this property is. I mean, look at what you have. You got the seawall right here. This is it. This is the ocean right here. This is it right here. There's Galveston. You're in the middle of the Gulf of Mexico right here. That's where this property is. Okay. So let's go back up. I want to show you a couple of things at a zoomed level that I'm looking at here. What I like about this, I mean, look, you got 635, 375, 430, 465, 369. You got a couple under here, but this could be a condo for all I know. Let's just see. No, it's about the same. Okay. I don't know if it's for sale, but so let's go to environmental risk. See, this is why you need it's got a high flood rating, but this house is never flooded. We got the the actual property information is elevated. So you got to take that into consideration as well. So that's that. So I want to go back and I want to see, do they show me home value? Do they show me the median on this? They don't, sometimes, oh, here it is. Perfect. Let's see what this looks like right here. This is on Realtor. 349 listing, median price, good. Sold price, good. 72 days, that's okay. 2.5 months, not horrible. So I'm okay with this, assuming I can verify that the flood rating and the flood zone is never flooded and the insurability of the house is where it needs to be. That's it. So let's go back and I'm gonna go pull up the ZHVI for 77550 and just double check it against 77550. Let's search it here. 313. I like that. There again. All we're doing is confirming they're at 65 days. The other one was 72. It's gone down a little bit, 3.7%. I think that's actually a positive because every time something comes through that's negative, things go down. But I can promise you, if you go back and look at this property 5 years ago, it was probably maybe $200,000. In fact, let's see if we could see that over here on this chart. When I say 5 years ago, would that be about 20? Okay. So in 2021, which is barely 3 years ago, this house was worth $100,000 less. Okay. It was only in 2020, it was only worth $159,000 to $180,000. Guys, you can see that it's continuing to increase in value. Okay. I don't really care that it goes up, comes down, goes back up, comes back down, goes back up, because the net effect of it is still positive. It's only negative for this little short period of time. Well, guess what? Don't sell it then. Don't buy it then. You go look at 100 properties today and look at the values and go look back 5 years ago. I will bet you every single one of them is worth more today than it was 5 years ago if it's in a primary or secondary market. Just is. Okay. This is no different. This one right here, you take this value and we'll go to November of 2024. Pick a number. Let's take the average, 300,000. 300,000. If I go back to November 2019, can I go back there? It's right here. 100 and take the average, 170,000. That's $130,000 in equity. Now, if you're wrapping it, you don't get the benefit of the equity position, the borrower does, but guess what you get? Your investment, the value is so much stronger because if you sold this house back then on owner financing for 150, 160, 170, and now it's worth $300,000, what do you think the probability is that your borrower is going to perform? He just is. He's got too much equity in the property. He's going to perform because he's either going to continue to make monthly payments or he's going to sell the house and try to pay you off. Or you're going to be able to come in and do that. So anyway, that is it in a nutshell. So if that's a deal that you're interested in, send us an email to support. Let me pull that up one more time and go back to the final. Let me go back to the final numbers on this real quick. Let's see where it was. I like this deal. I like this deal. I like it because there's 3 reasons why I like this deal compared to the first one. Okay. Number one, I know this is what I like about this. If I go back to property purchase here, look, if Wells Fargo calls this mortgage due, if I structure this right, I only owe them $120,000. If I structure my notes right, I can go write $150,000 first lien wrap, sell it, pay them off, and I can just keep the seller in as a seller finance and still stay in the deal. That's number one. Okay. Number two, it's a blended rate of about 4%. I like that. Number three is that I have multiple exits on this. I can keep this as an Airbnb if I wanted to keep it as an Airbnb, assuming the numbers work. Okay. I know that it's gone up 50% in value or almost doubled in value in the last 5 years. Will it double again in the next 5 years? I don't know, but I know it's not going to probably go down in value with a high degree of probability. So maybe do I want a cash flow neutral for the next 3 years? and let it go up another $200,000, let my debt go down and then do that? I don't know. But guess what? Those are all my options that I can control. That's what I like about this deal. Plus the fact, the last thing on this right here, if you go to this bottom line here, go back to the 10-year, $179,000 in perpetuity, and over 10 years, it's worth $1,400 a month cash flow net. I just think that you can't really go wrong with this, besides the fact, assuming that the flooding on this property is accurate, meaning it's never flooded, it's elevated, it's not a floodable property, and it's never flooded. Because this house, if we go back to it real quick, this is not a new house. This is what I love. This is the other thing I love about old construction. Okay. If I go back to this house, see, does it show me the year it was built here? It's probably on Zillow. Let me see what year this was built. Let's just see what year it was built. Well, it looks like it's mid-century. Usually I get the years on here. Doesn't tell me. Probably because it's not for sale. Anyway, I can
It
just
shows
tell.
in 1948.
1948. Thank you. Where do you see that? Am I missing it?
Scroll up a little bit on it,
Let's see.
on where you were scrolling.
Up here.
No, to the right. On the right. Scroll.
Oh, hang on.
Yep. A little more. A little more. Keep going. Keep going.
Where the hell is? Oh,
And
there
there.
it is. They're 1948. Yeah, so here's what I do know about properties. 60, 70, 80 years ago, they weren't stupid enough to build stuff in floodplains. If you look at stuff that floods, it's very rarely the older stuff, unless it's some catastrophic event, like a dam breaks or something like that. But just surge doesn't happen. What happens is the newer stuff is the stuff that floods, because they're trying to reclaim land or whatever. Anyway, so this is a good deal. I like this deal. I would run if anybody wants to run Airbnb, like if anybody has AirDNA or something like that, take that address, go run it and see if it comes out. I'm not an Airbnb guy. I'm not a renter guy. So, but for somebody that might be, or it has that as a potential option, it could very well be something to consider. So, let me check the questions in. How do you verify that it's never flooded? Well, you can have to pull it up and you can see you can check the insurance on it as well. It'll be all recorded, and you could probably actually even have it done with whoever your insurance guy that's going to be insuring the property. But that came directly from the seller. In fact, let me just see what the notes say here. I think it's in here. I think it says it right here. It just says it's never flooded. So anyway, whether that's true or not, I do not know. That's why we trust and verify. So if it's something you're interested in, send us an email, support at Creative Dealmaker. We'll look at it. We can get you the information, get you all the details you need. And if you like it, want to counter on it or something like that, or you think it's close, I give it a B. B minus, only because of the location. So that's it. So let's see. Let me see what else we got here. Yeah, looking to wholesale it. Yeah, I'm just helping the seller on it. So yeah, I'm not buying it myself for my own self. They asked me if I was interested. I said, not really interested. I got some other projects I'm working on. But yes, it's available for sale. So I'm just helping facilitate this because I brought it on Deal or No Deal Live, Justin. So it sounds like something you're interested in. I'll probably just put you in touch with the owner directly. And if you guys want to work it out and see if you can get a deal cut or something like that, you're more than welcome to do that. Just send us an email or a text and we'll get you all the direct contact information. That goes for you or anybody else. Okay. So this is not my deal. So I'm not technically the one that's wholesaling it. Okay. See, two contracts is in, I have modified one contract and other contracts. Yeah, so Don had a question. Don, I wish you would have brought that up. We could have covered it on the call, but I have another hard stop. We gotta get another call. So Don, if you want to send something to us at support, we could try to take a look at it. And we can see if we can get you an answer on that and get you some direction, okay? All right, guys, if you don't have any other questions, I'm gonna go. We got our inner circle call starting here. Check your emails, watch it. We'll probably send some text messages out too to get you on the live webinar that we're going to be having. I know that you'll find tremendous value because if you understand this and like the creative deal stuff, I think you're going to really find tremendous value on some of the other stuff that we're bringing in to the community. So that's all I got for now. Oh, by the way, we just put it in there. Thursday night, training. Oh, actually, Don, get the link out of the chat. Bring it on the call Thursday night with Michael. Okay, he's handling all that. He's handling the training and the support meetings for Creative Dealmaker on stuff just like that. I totally forgot about it. So, guys, everybody's welcome to attend that. That's on this call. Just click on that link. You can register. It might be a little bit elementary for some, but if you got a deal and you have a structuring question, how to negotiate the terms with the seller, how to structure. Michael is great at that. His biggest asset is the fact that he's a negotiator. Okay, that's what he does. Not only on cash but on creative. So highly recommend you sending that out. LV, are we sending that out again as a separate email this week? As a reminder?
Yes, tomorrow.
So
the
we'll
day
send out
before.
another reminder for that as well, for that training as well. So try to join it if you can, okay? Guys, I gotta run. I gotta get to the inner circle call. Reach out to us via support, and hopefully we'll see you live on our webinar whenever that is, probably sometime next week. All right, have a good day. Take care.